Jeff, I want to ask you a question about a Pew poll that came out this week in which 63% of the country said, when asked if the U.S. has a responsibility to act in Libya, 63% said no. This could be, our third war, essentially. Who knows how long it will last, but country's not really in the mood to be going into another place, is it? The
country is definitely not. I'm actually surprised it's not even a little bit higher than that. First of all, most people really don't think about Libya, so they have a sort of a hard time, connecting to it, and a hard time feeling the need, that this is actually a necessary step for the U.S. to do. I think, we're coming up on almost the 10th anniversary, later this summer, early fall of 9/11. So this country has been at war for 10 years straight in multiple places. I'm not sure they're ready for a third. So this president definitely is looking for some buy-in from Congress, but he will have to sell this to the American people if he has time. But I think time is of the essence here, and everyone is hoping for a quick action, if any action is taken at all.
Major, you've just come from interviewing General Petraeus, who is leading our efforts in Afghanistan, the what was once referred to by some people as the good war, but is now in a tricky spot. You talked to Petraeus about American public opinion. Tell us about that.
Well, the public opinion numbers are almost exactly what you referred to in Libya in percentage. 64% of the American public in a Washington Post ABC News poll said the war in Afghanistan is no longer worth fighting. No longer worth fighting. So I put the question to General Petraeus at a National Journal event we had today at the museum, why is the American public wrong? Here's his answer.
Well, obviously I was struck by that. I think a commander, I did say on Capitol Hill, I'm not here to sell the war. I'm here to report forthrightly on the situation on the ground, and I think that's the responsibility of military commanders. But clearly you have to be aware of the strategic context within which you're operating, and obviously domestic public opinion is a very important element of that context, as it is, by the way, in the other 47 troop-contributing nations of the NATO ISAF force. So it's a concern.
And I want to ask you, did you want to follow up on that, Major?
Just one quick thing. I asked the General also, July of this year rather, is he going to recommend to the President combat troop withdrawals from Afghanistan, as the President indicated would come when he originally boosted U.S. forces there? He said that's on the table, he expects it, but has made no final decision about how large that contingent of combat forces he will recommend to be withdrawn, or what the President will do with that.
And the President has to deal with, Petraeus is in town, so Afghanistan is on the agenda. Obviously, the President's talking about Libya today. There is a budget fight, and the week started with this devastation in Japan that the President had to deal with. At the White House, they're trying to deal with a new sense of ordering their priorities. How in God's name do you order priorities when you've got the ceiling caving in every week?
And you're about to get on a plane and go to South America for the first time for a completely different set of priorities that they haven't talked about at all since he became president. Look, if you ask the White House this question, they very modestly say, well, that's the nature of the presidency, and you have to walk and chew gum at the same time. That's their favorite phrase on this kind of thing. But it is actually a sort of extra burden on the NSC in particular. It's really one area of the White House that is bearing most of the brunt of it after, a year and a half focused on healthcare. To really spread themselves out across these other areas has been a challenge. Now, they do have a new chief of staff, obviously, in Bill Daley. They have a whole new senior staff lineup, really, between Daley and David Plouffe, who's there now as a senior advisor. So it's a different crew. And I think probably, fortunately for them, it's not as much about messaging as it might have been earlier in the beginning part of the administration. It's really about substance and how they respond. But they've taken a fair amount of criticism. And it's been for Obama not being out there enough, as critics have said, not leading the way, perhaps not standing up to regimes in the Middle East quickly enough, first Egypt, now Libya. But the White House would tell you that a lot of that is by design, and that in fact when they put the president out there too early or too often, they're criticized for that. So they're trying to strike that balance. You saw him go to the Japanese embassy to pay his regards. That was an unannounced visit. He went and did that. And I suspect that when he's on this trip to South America over the weekend, early part of next week, you're going to hear him talking a lot about not Brazil, although he'll have to do some of that, but about Japan and certainly about Libya and maybe even to a certain extent the budget, although that's something I suspect he can handle when Congress and he both get back.